Welcome on the AM News Review. Always exciting. And we're joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is Director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. I'll be going to him shortly, but we all know that this segment, as always, is brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. What are they offering you watching me this morning? Well, if you're a man, prostate screening, and it's never too early to check once you hit your late 20s, early 30s, because back then it used to be in your 50s, 60s. Now it's not the same. And we of black extraction, if I may put it that way, are particularly susceptible. There are things that Caucasians are susceptible to. There are things that we are susceptible to. Prostate disease is one that's scientifically proven we are susceptible to. So make tracks to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering that to you for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening, do you know your fertility status? You also get screening for free. Here's where you can locate Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Here in Accra, they are at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Krodomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaje Estate when you come back to the Greater Accra region, Tema Community 22. Then there's Tichima and Hanswa and Siama and Zama. If you'd like to call them, these are the numbers. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
How has the Wednesday treated you so far? It's a wet morning.
I think it promises to be a good day. We are poised for action. We are ready to work. I'm already at City Campus, ready to teach after the program. So I'm ready.
Awesome, awesome. I remember my days in the political science department. You were one early bird, so I'm not surprised you are there already. So right after this, you'll be going to spew some knowledge from the spigot of your vast sources. Anyway, so let's get into the papers. But before we do, Doc, I always give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with us on matters of national scope. A lot has happened within the last week since we interacted, but especially what is making the rounds now, that leaked tape, ostensibly with some people very high up in the police echelons, together with some politicians, plotting ostensibly to oust the IGP, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, because on the back of what had happened in Asin North with what he had done, there wouldn't be a means of stealing the election in 2024. The Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, has said it is not true, it is not factual, but members of the minority are saying, probe this matter because we can't sweep it under the carpet. It's a security matter of dire concern and consequences, and we will resist any attempts at saying, your take.
Yeah, Ben. Except of this, I realize that I want to share in the view of the minority that you can't just throw this away. You need to subject it to some form of analysis and then come out with something and let's see. Because you see, all these things come out from the fact that we have the executive that appoints the IGP and some of the service commanders. It is not a good practice because then it gives the appointing authority to want to, get them out anytime they feel so. That is not to say that this one, the executive has a hand in that and all that, but I support the call of minority that this thing needs to be looked into so that we don't create fear and panic within the top brass of the police service. That has a lot of responsibility for us. Remember that we have criticized the police time and again for their inability to do certain things. Now that you are getting them through their leader to do a lot of things that, to the admiration of many, people want to find an orthodox means of getting him out of office. I think that's unfair. It's not proper. So we need to be careful about this and then go into it. I'll urge the government not to discount it, take it, get a neutral body to look into the matter, and then come out with the findings so that you can settle this issue once and for all. We should also know.
Hello, Doc.
Expect them to do is what? Nothing but. Hello? Yes.
Yes, we lost you briefly. Go ahead. Go ahead. We lost you briefly.
When we put people in position of authority, such as the position of the IGP, we expect them to work. So when they are working, I don't see why it should be a problem for any human being, unless, of course, you want to undermine the very system that we want to develop and protect. So I think, all in all, we need to look into this matter and look deeper and find those who want to, subvert the system, and then speak to them the way the law have to deal with them. That's all.
There's also this bit, if I may just go to that conversation on PM Express yesterday, where in fact Dr. Konedu Apreku, who is an astute politician from the MPP end and who wants to be president as well, has said, and since this is, political science, smack down the alley of political science, he says he feels betrayed by this government on the back of happenings, how he was ousted. Then he claims that he can run his administration with no more than 40 ministers. And even more poignantly, he says, for this government, we have never had a circumstance under which we dipped so low. We've never had a circumstance under which we dipped so low. I can run my administration with no more than 40 ministers, and I feel betrayed by this government. How do you react to Dr. Konedu Apreku's comments? You know him very well.
Yes. Yesterday, I listened to the tail end of the conversation, and it was refreshing to hear from him, especially somebody from the MPP, a stalwart like him. It is nothing but an admission of the reality on the ground that the government in this tenure has not performed well at all. The economy has not been managed properly, because he did say about if we were to do things right, we wouldn't be where we are. It tells you, it speaks volume of the fact that the economy has been mismanaged. The issue he talked about, lean government, is also refreshing, because this is something that people have said time and again, but governments decide.
We seem
now,
to have...
everybody won't give up. If given the opportunity, they will be able to reduce the size of government. Yes, at this stage, I want to take it as a mere talk. But when they get power, that is where we hold their feet to the fire of accountability. So his proposal of having a 40-size government, yes, it's welcome, but I still believe that we can do with 19. I have maintained that position. We don't need deputy ministers. We need 19 as the cabinet, as the Constitution says, to satisfy that requirement for cabinet. And then out of the 19, you will pick 16 as a regional minister. So what it means is that one person would double as a regional minister and as a cabinet minister. That's it. It can be done. 19, how can't you govern with 19, but you want 40 or 54? I disagree. But it's a bold attempt. I want to see how they work these things out when they are giving the nod. But we as a society must find lasting solution to this, because they will come to office and then tell you that, yes, we underestimated the situation and that we are sorry. We have to go back to a certain number and all that. Let us find a lasting solution. And the lasting solution is that let us amend a portion of the Constitution and put in black and white that any government that will be formed in this republic will have members, the executive, made up of 17, 19 or 20 ministers, so that that debate, that promise and broken promises will cease and cease once and for all.
Thank you so much for your initial thoughts on these matters. Let's get into the daily graphic newspapers now. Legislators receive gratuity, not ex gratia. Speaker of Parliament clarifies. That story is on page 13 of the paper. There is graphic APSA deepen business relations. Then autism, not death warrant. GT Bank rolls out major intervention, and it is indeed major. On the back page, Zoom Lion assemblies disinfest Eastern region, and Burkinabe asylum seekers to be resettled in Tarikom. Those are the stories there. Let's get into this one about autism before we go to the legislators' saga. So, when Elizabeth Aqua Bertino found out that her son, young Phil Bertino, was an autistic child, it was too bitter a pill to swallow. Being the first child of the Bertinos, he was their treasure and they had big ambitions for him. So, when his speech started to deteriorate at age 2, they went to great lengths to restore it. In a desperate search for solutions to young Phil's condition, the parents visited hospitals and prayer camps for solutions, but to no avail. Finally, when it was confirmed at the National Assessment Center at Achimota in Accra that Phil was suffering from autism, I felt terrible, Mrs. Bertino told the Daily Graphic. Well, with the spectrum of disorders ranging from weak attention span, sensory, cognitive, speech-language communication to behavioral and sociability, it became a daunting task to manage Phil, now 16. His parents went to great lengths to seek information about the condition, invested in therapy, and offered superior care that have helped transform young Phil into a global icon. Quoting her, she says, Phil is a swimmer, a pianist, tennis player, basketball player, and above all, the best professional autistic cyclist in the whole of Africa. Now, here's where GT Bank comes in. To support parents and caregivers to deliver similar care, Guarantee Trust Bank Limited, that is GT Bank Ghana, in collaboration with its parent company, Guarantee Trust Holding Company, has rolled out a 2 million Ghana cedi corporate social responsibility project to build the capacity of caregivers, parents, and teachers of autistic children. It's the banner headline in the Daily Graphic, but I'm not just highlighting it because of that. I'm highlighting it because I really am concerned about how access to the sort of care that those who are autistic, those who suffer from the other spectrum of diseases, get in Ghana. There are so many of them. Those with Down syndrome, those who suffer autism, those with other, illnesses on the spectrum. There was a time, Doc, when I volunteered at the New Horizon Special School in cantonments, and I served there for a number of weeks. I raised funds. I was in the University of Ghana back then. I raised funds from my colleague students to help them to get the things they need, mops, detergents, a number of things I did over the time, over that period. I believe I raised over 2,000 Ghana cedis back then, and it really helped, but we don't pay so much attention to this. Any reflections on this story?
I've said it better than what you have done. Because I also follow these stories with keen interest. I had a child who suffered from cerebral palsy.
Yeah,
so I know what I went through for the 5 years that he lived. I went through hell. And there was no place to tend to. At a point in time, we were supposed to go to Nigeria to have a scan which was not available in Ghana. I don't want to. But what we have to do as a people is that we build support systems and then build a capacity of parents, teachers, and people who take care of them. That is the way to go. You have, some of these people at the university, for instance, University of Ghana, and I'm happy and I commend the UG for the support they give them. They come to class and we call them the special needs, students with special needs.
Right.
They give them all manner of attention. And that is, I'm so proud to see that. And you have some of them performing so well in the class. It means that when everybody is given opportunity, you'll be able to come out in flying colors. The potentials are there. but the capacity, the resources to support this venture is always the problem. But I don't see why it should be a problem if we prioritize our issues well. It should be a thing of the past, support them. And what God has given to them in terms of their potential will come out.
You couldn't have said it any better. On a day like this, those whom I know who are doing exceedingly well as parents. The other one's name I forget, but Genevieve Partington comes to mind, and how they take care of their children with special needs. For those parents out there who are doing so well, brilliantly well, with children with special needs. Here in this country, sometimes you have a child with special needs and people suggest all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Not even wanting them to live. But there are parents out there who are doing an amazing job. Genevieve Partington is one of them. And if someone is watching, please let her know that I'm shouting her out for the amazing job she's doing with her kids. Now, legislators received gratuity, not ex gratia. That's according to the Speaker of Parliament. Let's quickly get to that story here on page 13. And the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, has reiterated the money paid to members of Parliament every 4 years is accumulated salary arrears or gratuity, not ex gratia. Now, he said at the beginning of every Parliament, most legislators, including himself as the Speaker, did not know the exact salary they were entitled to until the end of their 4-year term, a practice he described as wrong. And I agree with him. It is wrong. He explained that whenever Ghanaians talked about budgeting for Parliament, they considered such budget as money earmarked for salaries and conditions of service of MPs. Quote, especially what people refer to as ex gratia. But he says, gratuity is different from ex gratia. What they pay MPs is gratuity, and it is another wrong practice because as we sit here in our 3rd year, which is 3 years down, as the Speaker, do not know my salary, he revealed. This is a major problem. And he says, my salary has not yet been fixed. And so every month I am paid something based on what my predecessor was earning. And this is what leads to that phenomenon. And we'll all be talking about ex gratia and the huge sums at the end of every 4 years, every cycle that we pay our members of Parliament. What do you make of what the Speaker is saying? I've always found a problem with this. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I also have a problem with it, and I share in his pain. That why is it that you have given me a job to do and I will not know how much I should receive in terms of what reward for the work that I do? It's wrong. You have to let me know. If I'm comfortable, I'll continue with it. So my understanding is that they just go in there, work without necessarily knowing what to be expected. Even if people are giving them something less than what is supposed to be given to them, they will not know. So that's unfair. You keep them in the dark whilst they also serve their country and serve their country well. The issue of ex gratia is a big one because we don't tend to understand. So we confuse the issue, and I'm happy that the Speaker has come out clearly to give us pointers as to how we can appreciate some of this issue. Last time I picked up this conversation with a friend, and because I also did not understand, and I was made to know that, look, when we talk about ex gratia, we are saying that you have done a piece of work, and this is what we give to you as handshake, if you like, take home. All right. It is not something that is received every year or at all times, but something that in appreciation of what you have done. So we have to look at it carefully because we try to confuse the issue and create the impression that our MPs only are out there to milk the state dry and all that, forgotten about the fact that they also serve their society and serve them well. I, as a reporter, when I was working in Parliament, I got closer to them and I realized the suffering that they go through. But hey, they can't share their pain with anybody. So they live with it and then they move on. So I'm happy the Speaker has broken the jinx and has come out to set the record straight.
Let me just look at this message. Atakofi says, good morning, please. I think the police must not have a political direction. That's what you say. On the back of that initial, bit I threw to you, Doc, in respect of that leaked tape ostensibly talking about ousting the IGP. Well, let's quickly look at some other stories and then say goodbye to the Daily Graphic newspaper and move on to other papers. On page 17, there is a bit of a perspective there. Harnessing female participation in student leadership. And I would extend it and say national leadership. We have too few of them. Look at the members of parliament, 20 on both sides, NDC, NPP. How do we up the numbers? And it all starts from the tertiary level as well. And we see a number more of them contending, but sometimes they never get to the very heights of it. For example, SRC presidents and all of that. We always feel they should be vice or secretary and things like that. There's also MPP flag bearership. Kwame Asah-Asante launches campaign. I listened to him. I was going to the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park yesterday. I went there, beautiful place, and I salute the president for the work he's done there. And I was listening to Kwame Asah-Asante. And I felt a lot of what he was saying actually made sense. Sometimes our politicians say a lot of sense when they're not in power, and then when they come to power, there's a whole lot. But I felt a lot of what he was saying made sense. I don't know whether you listened to him and what your take would be on what his strategy would be for the country Ghana.
I think I listened with him. I listened to him with rapt attention.
Right.
He made a lot of sense to me. And one bit about his speech was the fact that he was so bold and came out clearly about things that are worrying him.
And he admitted that a lot of things had gone wrong in this administration.
Yes. And for me, I salute him for that. For him, as a member of the party, saying that, yes, it is true that we have choked some successes, but there are problems that we need to address. The problem of the economy, that today we find ourselves at the doorstep of the IMF. I think that there should be a new order, that new faces must come in to rescue the country from this economic doldrum we find ourselves. That's refreshing, but there are things I took home and I want to share in respect to what we are discussing. One is that he talks about that the fact that we need new faces to change the system.
Right.
Because the same people who have pushed us to the IMF cannot be the same people
getting us out
to be giving power and then run the affairs of the state again. I agree, but I disagree at the same time.
Okay.
Why? Every member of any political party, it is your duty to, volunteer ideas, share ideas with your party. So whether you are in government or outside it, you owe it a duty to the party to share information, ideas with the party.
I guess. Pardon my intervention. I guess the problem is usually they would tell you that, look, from where I sit, I share the ideas, but no one listens to me. Think of Professor Frimpong Boateng and his purported report that never saw the light of day until it was leaked. And that wasn't even the only report he had presented on that. So a lot of them will tell you, it's not that we don't do these things, but no one listens to us.
But the issue is that the reality? Because sometimes we hide behind these things that, we shared ideas and nobody listened. And if we want to share ideas within political parties, it's not verbal. You write it and copy relevant people so that people will know that your contribution has been made. That is not to say that Mr. Asah-Asante did not, but is that the case? I want to know that, because when you're talking about new faces that we need, where are those people? All right, they are virtually coming from the party, and it's the same party which is in government that has mismanaged the economy. So is it the case that Ghanaians want just a new set of people, or they want the government, a new government to come in? That is where the question is. It's not the new faces, but that people believe that the government has misperformed and that they don't need the government. So you need to convince the people more with very strong arguments. The issue of also you talk about values and principles, that people, the delegates must vote along these lines. Great ideas. I love that. But the issue is that it's coming too late in the day, in the sense that before you want voters, or for that matter, the the delegate to be able to do stuff along these lines, you need the political socialization to be strong within the party, to inculcate the values, the principles that you want them to uphold at all times. You need to have done this work long time, so that by this time, as soon as you remind them, what you say will be a reminder, then they are home and dry. But if you have not done that and you want it at the 11th hour, you may be disappointed. He talks about issue of what? Putting a cap on the Supreme Court. You recall that I've said it time and again that I don't understand why the US, of all powerful states, have only 9 judges and we have 15 and still counting. What is it that we have that the US doesn't have? What is it that we have experienced that the US has not experienced, that we want to have more Supreme Court judges than them? So I'm happy that this thing is gaining grounds and people have reasoned through that they find it important to advocate on this along these lines. It's a great one. He talks about also the issue of cutting waste, and I am also happy and I support him on that call, because just look through Auditor General reports. It is replete with stories of what financial waste, financial malpractices and all that. So if you have a leader who said that I'm going to tackle this, tied it up to what? The mighty and almighty corruption,
right,
and then link it up to what? Law enforcement, then I am with you. But as to whether that will influence the choices of the delegates, I can't say much.
All right.
He knows his party well, and then we hope and pray that they go along these lines. That will help this country. Yeah.
Doc, we have 3 minutes. The headlines I'm about to run by you, these are matters we've discussed, so I'll just gloss over them, and then I'll focus on certain ones that I'll let you share your thoughts on. Republic Press says, no plans to hack IGP. Government indicates as leaked tape causes stir. Then there's a bit about Kwame Asah-Asante. Jatiquation's motion shot down as well. The Ghanaian publisher says Koya Dagbang Forum fight hate speech. And these are the matters I want you to focus on. So, government settles outstanding coupons, principal payments to bondholders. That story is on page 4 of the Finder newspaper. And the government has settled all outstanding coupons and principal payments up until June 19, 2023, due to the bondholders, while instructions have also been sent for payment of coupons falling due up until July the 10th, 2023. You know, they've been picketing the finance ministry over the delays, and at least we talk about it. So if government has done something about it, we ought to mention that as well. There is also NDC MPs pile pressure, boycott house over court cases. I want to know what your thinking is on the members of parliament from the minority end not going to parliament on the back of those happenings. Then on page 6, there is bloodbath, quote, in Techiman South NDC. A violent altercation between members of the NDC broke out in the Techiman South constituency of the Bono East region. The conflict was purportedly sparked by internal party polls, when a brutal attack was unleashed on party members who were expressing their dissent regarding the handling of the internal polls. That's according to the Daily Guide. And finally, Economy Times. World Bank saves VCTF with $40 million. I'm talking about the Venture Capital Trust Fund, with an amount of $40 million after the government had failed to allocate funds to the trust for a couple of years now. So far, the World Bank has disbursed $16 million out of the $40 million for further on lending to small and medium enterprises operating in the areas of agriculture, health, and education through its fund managers. We can't manage anything as a country, can we? Quick thoughts, Doc, and we're gone.
The conflict between NDC members in Bono is unfortunate, and especially when people are exchanging blows or there's violence because people will suppress dissent of this. Governance without dissent is a joke, right? Because we have every right to express our opinions, however painful it may be. You also must develop the thick skin to be able to accommodate this. And that is a mark of a Democrat. If people don't know this, they should learn this. And then the next one is that the issue of NDC members boycotting Parliament. Strategies, there are so many strategies that MPs employ to achieve their aim in Parliament. Yes, you can. But the question is, how sustainable would that be? Would they be in court forever? A time will come, they cannot be there. They will come back to Parliament. So let's give them time to support their member. But I know that very soon they will rise to Parliament and continue the work. It's a matter of time.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, and your students are blessed to have you, for sure.
Thank you. I'm also grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. He is also the director of the Center for European Studies. The segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering free prostate screening if you're a man, free fertility screening if you're a woman. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. They can also be located in Tema Community 22. There's Kumasi Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. They are also in Takrade and Ajay Estates. Then there's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzima. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review, but just the start of sports. We have a lot of action coming your way in our sporting segment. Don't miss a beat. We'll be right back.